What are the next tectonic plates? Not the small plates, not UAB, not Boise State, not Air Force, not Colorado State. What are the next tectonic plates that could shift? What is going on, everybody? It is Jake with Master Football, back at it again. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. For anybody who's never been here before, this is Jake with Master Football. All things pro, college, video game football, anything related to American football we discuss in the show right now. Please, 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 emphasis on the please. Please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Please share it. Please comment on it. Anything like that drives engagement. I very much appreciate it. Trying to get this baby going, man. But without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so I have to address something real quick, okay? My boys, okay, we gotta we'll touch on a base real quick. Okay, I'm a little salty about it, but we're just gonna touch base. So last Saturday night, Oklahoma State came into Boise, Idaho. I was at the game, and it was a crazy first half, and then the really, really boring second half. You can see the third and fourth quarter, there were 0 points scored. Oklahoma State couldn't throw the ball, and Boise State couldn't run the ball. So ultimately, Jalen Warren had 32 carries for 218 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Hank Bachmeier had 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 240 passing. But final score, 21-20 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is 3-0, and Boise State is now 1-2, losing to 2 new and current Big 12 teams, Oklahoma State being the current Big 12 team and UCF being the future Big 12 team. I mean, I'm just saying, maybe really close games. It almost seems like they kind of belong in the same conference with each other, right? So I obviously want Boise State to get into the Big 12. I would love to do that. The Pac-12 is not coming. We know that's not coming. I would love for that to happen. Now, there are certain teams with recent expansion of the Big 12 into UCF, BYU, Houston, and Cincinnati. There was one team that was, we're just going to say, less than thrilled. I think they said they were like, yeah, we're excited. But they really didn't present it in the best way. So here we are on kansascity.com from Jesse Newell. Again, this was on September 11th. This was a while ago. So KU Jayhawks athletic director Travis Goff keeping options open after Big 12 shakeup. Goff, who spoke to reporters at Brooks Stadium about a half hour before KU's road football game against Coastal Carolina, was asked whether Friday's Big 12 news potentially stops other conversations while pursuing what's best for KU. The answer, he said, was no. The beauty of this is when you think about it being focused on what's best for Kansas, that applies to anything we do. It applies to conference affiliation. It applies to what we're trying to achieve in our programs. It applies to the financial strength. It applies to fans and alumni engagement. Goff continues on, and this is where it gets real spicy. We're less secure now than we were 8 weeks ago, and maybe significantly financially less secure, Goff said. The facts are there's most likely scenario where we do a new deal with a makeup where we likely can't stay at the level we're at. And I think that's pretty well documented. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, the value that Texas and OU brought. Goff said KU needed to strengthen itself financially in 2 ways. The first was better football, which he said, frankly, should be our primary driver of any athletic program. And the second part, he said, would be focused on fundraising. So for everybody out there hoping the conference realignment was done, we're going to get some security, keep dreaming, okay? It's not going away. It's not going away for several reasons because, again, after Texas and OU left, the Pac-12 was looking at potentially expanding. The 2 teams they were close to inviting were TCU, Dallas-Fort Worth market, and Houston. Houston is now going to the Big 12, and TCU is staying put. The Pac-12 is not expanding. The Pac-12 wants to get into that central time zone. They are already in the mountain time zone, and they're already in the West Coast time zone, but they want to get into that central time zone for scheduling purposes and opening up earlier games. So that's where we're at. I mean, conference realignment is nowhere close to being done, okay? I got my notebook here. I want to talk about a couple of different things. So conference realignment is not done. We are taking a break right now. In the next 6 months, and this is my estimation, this isn't official here, but in my estimation, in the next 6 months, we're only going to see expansion or realignment in one area, and that's going to be group of 5 teams. So here you are from thespun.com. So the report is the AAC is targeting a couple of notable schools. You can see right here, the first one is Boise State. So according to CBS Sports Dennis Dodd, the AAC won't rest on its laurels, though. So remember, they just lost UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston. However, what they're thinking about doing is targeting some of the best schools in the Mountain West. Air Force, Boise State, Colorado State, and San Diego State are all in the mix, as is Conference USA program UAB. FAU and UTSA are considered backup options per Dodd. Boise State and UAB have been discussed most prominently among the 5 expansion candidates. Dodd writes, inclusion of any or all of the 4 aforementioned Mountain West candidates could destabilize that league to the point that the AAC would remain the clear top conference in the group of 5. Continue on, it says here that the AAC is selling Boise State on the potential to be the league's most powerful program, one that could chase a playoff spot each year based on the structure of the proposed 12-team playoff. The AAC has earned 5 of 7 automatic bids, New Year's 6 bowl berths in the college football playoffs' 7-year history. A very considerable portion of that, though, comes from Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF, who are now gone. So you're coming in and you're going to replace those teams. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's what they're trying to sell to Boise State at this point. So I touched on that in earlier videos, and for Boise State's perspective, and again, if they go over there, the conference payouts something like $4 million in the Mountain West and $7 million in the AAC. If the AAC keeps their payment out at $7 million, it's more than likely going to drop with those teams leaving. So you're going to go over there for an extra $2 million a year. It doesn't seem very relevant. Now you're going to be having to be flying to, Philadelphia for Temple. You're going to have to go to South Florida and Tampa. You got some huge road trips for you. But again, those road trips make less sense with less money involved. The more money, nobody cares, okay? The Raiders are in the West Coast time zone, and the Chiefs are in the Central time zone, and they're in the same division because who cares? It's money. So that's right now what we're going to see. More than likely in the next 6 months, I don't suspect anything coming unless there's a tectonic plate moving. Now, what I wanted to use this video as an opportunity to do was to discuss what else might happen. So what are the next tectonic plates? Not the small plates, not UAB, not Boise State, not Air Force, not Colorado State. What are the next tectonic plates that could shift? So this report came out from Dennis Dodd. And again, Dennis Dodd has been killing it, right? Okay, CBS Sports, Dennis Dodd, if he writes it, it's probably good stuff. So he says, a look at what's ahead for the Pac-12 with realignment set to shake up college football once again. Will USC stay put? Will the Pac-12 add teams? Anything is possible. So it says right here, Commissioner George Kaliakov never thought he'd feel the question about his conference being vulnerable to realignment, but he did not shy away from it. There are no guarantees in life, Kaliakov told CBS Sports. As of right now, it looks like Ohio State and Michigan have no interest in leaving the Big Ten. They currently get a bazillion, gajillion, fulfillion dollars. Okay, Notre Dame has its own independence, but it's also got kind of like a friends with benefits situation with the AACC. So right now that leaves USC. So USC is the most recognizable brand in sports. Has one of the most recognizable brands in sports. It resides in the nation's second biggest TV market, and it is a huge draw. So right now, it says right here, this is a report that says a high-profile USC official told CBS Sports that we are listening to what's going on elsewhere. We're trying to listen and learn like everybody else. So it doesn't sound, and again, this article states here, clearly that's not a firm commitment to USC saying put. But why would any school with options declare its loyalty so early? Look at the windfall run into by Texas and Oklahoma. So right now, USC is kind of looking at that. They're like, we're not 100% sure. We don't really know what we want to do. But I think that if you're looking at it right now, so I'm also going to bring up a couple other contracts that they're talking about with the Pac-12, but that's the Pac-12. What about maybe the ACC? So here we are on rubbingtherock.com, Clemson football, what it would take to financially leave the ACC. So there are a zillion articles connecting the Clemson to the SEC. It's already an SEC country. It's one of the top brands. So it said right here that in addition to Florida State is in the Florida Panhandle, very close to Alabama. So it basically says that the leaving from the ACC to the SEC would give you a $15 million per year boost based on the TV revenue. Again, we're going to get into the ACC TV deal pretty quick here because it's a really, really bad one. So the ACC has an exit fee to leave the conference set at $52 million. While that exit number is doable, it's the league's grant of rights agreement that all but keeps schools locked into the conference. For those who are unfamiliar, a grant of rights agreement is a written permission from an institution like Clemson to relinquish control of television rights for the duration of the deal. The ACC's deal is set to expire in 2036. It basically says, that is, unless you find a loophole in court, you're not going to get out of that deal. So I have this article here. I didn't like the financial numbers because I found some differences between the financial numbers and a couple of these deals here. But basically looking at here, this gives a pretty good understanding of what the deals look like. So for the AAC in 2019, they signed a 12-year deal. So that puts us at 2031. The ACC has a 20-year deal that expires in 2036. Oof. The Big Ten, their deal expires in 2023. And then we have here the Big 12's deal expires at 2025. That is when Texas and Oklahoma are going to leave for right now. Conference USA, it says right here that they have a 5-year deal that's going to expire 2023. The Mid-American Conference has a 4-year deal that's going to expire in 2023. Mountain West has a deal that's a 6-year deal that's going to expire in 2025, 2026. The Pac-12 has a deal that's going to expire the summer of 2024. The SEC has a, what is that? They have a deal with ESPN that ends in 2034. Their deal with CBS Sports is going to be ending soon. The Sun Belt has an agreement through 2030, 2031, and Notre Dame has a 10-year contract in 2013 that they signed through 2023, but it says the extension began in 2016 and will run through the 2025 season. Okay, so those deals, and there's lots to connect there, but I just wanted to bring this point up. So what I see is, and again, I have a crazy idea that could take all of this, throw it away, because it would solve all of this. It's going to be a really long video and lots of research to make, but I'm thinking right now, if you're sitting back and you're one of these conferences, I really am worried about Oregon State, Wake Forest, Indiana. Who else would you say? Arkansas, South Carolina. Those are the types of teams that you're looking back and you're thinking, okay, as long as our Texas and Oklahoma in our conference stay, we're going to be fine. What are some of those Texas and Oklahomas in each of these conferences? I have a list here. So the ACC is Florida State and Clemson. They're already kind of talking. There's already kind of rumors out there where there's smoke, there's fire. If they leave, what happens to the rest of the ACC teams? The Big Ten. Now, the Big Ten gets a lot of money, but remember, what if Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Michigan State all bail? Maybe you can substitute out Michigan State, put in Nebraska. That's another big brand. If that were to happen, the rest of that would destabilize the rest of the league. I don't know how much Indiana and Purdue can maintain the Big Ten's honor without those big schools there. For the Pac-12, USC, UCLA, and then Oregon and Washington. Oregon and Oregon State and Washington State are the examples of the haves and the have-nots in Washington and Oregon. Washington and Oregon are rivals. They would go with each other. USC and UCLA are rivals. They would go with each other, and they would more than likely go elsewhere. The SEC, this is where it gets a little weird. What if Georgia and Florida, Alabama and Auburn, LSU and Oklahoma and Texas A&M all left? So those 8 schools. So what would happen to Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Missouri, Arkansas? What would happen to all of those schools if those schools left? Who knows? But I'm telling you right now that we're not done. Okay, this might take a couple years to kind of iron itself out. But again, even if it irons itself out, it's not done. I'm just saying right now, I know that more than likely Clemson and Florida State, unless they have ridiculous lawyers, they're not going anywhere. Those other schools, though, a lot of those dates that you heard were 2023, 2024, 2025. A lot of deals expire. I expect to see more movement then, more movement financially speaking. Remember, even for USC could play in the Big Ten. A lot of people think, oh yeah, well, it doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Who cares, okay? When you're getting as much money as the Big Ten, you become the NFL. And in the NFL, who gives a dang about travel because you're making so much money? All right, guys, what do you think is the next tectonic plate? Not a small plate, not an AAC, not a Mountain West, not a Sun Belt. What's the next tectonic plate, the big one that you think is going to happen? I want you guys to get in the comments right now and let me know. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel, comment on it, share it, anything like that. I very much appreciate it. But I will see you guys on Friday. I am out.